Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at jonnydelsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49. Welcome in. Happy Monday. This is the Johnny Dell Podcast. Mixed emotions, mixed feelings. We're going to get into it. We may or may not get into a smidge of film just for you. A lot to deal with today. Johnny, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. It is post-draft day. The day when everybody flames the 49ers for their draft process, and everybody claims that every other team is winning the draft and we're losing the draft. When we are certain this will be the draft that ends Kyle Shanahan's tenure with the 49ers. Also the time when the 49ers are the best drafting team ever that has ever existed. They cannot be questioned. They cannot be challenged. They cannot ever have anything wondered about why they would do this there, that they are just smarter than every other GM and team that has ever existed. And here we sit somewhere in the middle, I think. I think I've come out of this draft and sat somewhere in the middle. You know, there was players that I liked. You know, I'd talked about Kalen Black since the Senior Bowl that I really liked. I was really hoping we would come out of the draft with him. I question whether it should have happened in the third round. That was a shock to me because everything I thought was that he was probably going to be a fourth or fifth round guy. And when you had somebody like Jennings Dunker sitting there ready to be picked, Jalen Farmer, two guys we really liked on this show, sitting there, it was hard to say, I understand the vision. On the other side, and we'll get into this a little bit more, there has been an incredible amount of dyspepsia and heartburn and angst and frustration and yelling into the abyss and screaming into the ether of the 49ers reach. The 49ers reach. They don't follow the consensus big boards. The consensus says that that player wasn't going to be there. I will tell you, this idea of consensus is absolutely hogwash. There is not one NFL team that has a draft board that will match up perfectly to the consensus board. I will tell you, there is not one draft expert whose draft board, unless they are basing their draft board off of the mean average of where other people have ranked somebody, and it really then there is no independent thought when that's happening, and that there is not one draft expert whose board matches the consensus in any way. Yeah. Like if you go to Athlon, their draft board is not going to match the the consensus board. Trevor Sikkema at PFF, his draft board will not match the consensus draft board. Those guys are part of what makes up the consensus. Mel Kiper's draft board is not going to match up with the consensus draft board. You're not going to, USA Today's is not going to match up with the consensus draft board. NFL.com's is not going to match up with the consensus draft board. There is no real consensus. These are just averages of opinions. And so, and there, it's also irrespective of scheme fits, traits that teams like, how they want to use guys, roles that they will play. These things are always factored in.
So
For
Johnny,
example, well,
let me
okay. Yeah,
let me
no,
ask
go
you
ahead.
this. Let me ask you this because you said something key, but earlier you said with the running back. Oh, okay, I like that pick, but I feel like he would have been available. But then th- when you say I feel like he would have been available in my head and probably a lot of the faithful, I'm speaking on behalf of, they would say, yes, the general consensus is that he would have been available. So then by definition, that is a reach. But then the last 3 minutes you just said, no, it doesn't work that
Well,
way.
okay, so let
So
me add some
which
nuance to that. So let me add some nuance. So when I say that about Kalen Black, for example, you see, it is an outlier that somebody believes he's a third round tight end, like or third round running back. Like there was only maybe one or two guys that felt that at all, and the majority feels like he's a fifth or sixth round running back. Um, that's so like I get that. Where I'm looking at it is a guy like Romello Height. Romello Height fits a very specific role that the 49ers are going to have him in, which is that Bryce Ruff role, that third down specialist pass rusher. I didn't like some of what he brought into the run game, but as a speed rusher, as a guy that you can put over there and you're only asking him to play 15 to 20 snaps a game, he was probably the best that was available at that time at pick 58. Um, so people are saying, well, that was a reach because he's really was like an early third round grade. I'm going, yeah, but if you're the 40, here's how the 49ers do this. They draft by need 100%. Like that is their philosophy. So anybody arguing that they need to go best player available, they will never ever do that. Like they do not do that. They identify this is our menu of players that we want to come out of this draft with. We want a playmaking wide receiver who might be able to play X, who might be able to move into that role in his second year, but can contribute early. That and I'd been talking about that for the last month that was going to be where the 49ers went. I felt like that was coalescing. They threw me for a curveball with the trade backs. And so I thought it might then go edge because now it was a different valuation, but they still stuck with that and they went wide receiver. I thought they were going to go guard in the second round. That's why we didn't talk about Romello Height very much because I felt like he was going to be somebody that would be end of the second, early third. And so we looked at like fourth round sleepers because they didn't have a third round pick. And we looked at guard prospects that I thought were second round picks or around there. And so Romello Height was a situation of if you're looking for just a pure pass rusher specialist guy that was there at 58, he was the best that was available. So they did go best player available of a specific type that they were looking at because they were going to look at by the time we pick in the third round, he won't be there anymore. So, so like there's that. People say that Stribling was a reach, and I go, honestly, it depends on how you grade wide receivers. I've watched every single snap of his 2025 year. I was sending Adam little videos on Saturday because I
yes.
had the draft going on my big TV, and then I got two computer screens, and I'm watching every snap of Stribling. And I'll pull up my scouting report that I wrote because of how I felt about him.
Yeah, let's go
Watching
through all
everything
the
'cause I
draft picks in chronological order. So let's start with this wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Some people say that was a reach.
right.
But
And
let's yeah,
well,
let's get into
and
it.
so I'll get through the scouting report and then I'll talk about why. Again, it just depends on an organization's viewpoint on who they draft. So I say prototypical size is 6'2", 207 pounds. To sum them up, dynamic playmaker, large, strong frame, big, strong hands, explosive, home run speed paired with quick feet and a pit bull mindset. The blend of size, speed, and Size, speed, hands, and vertical, paired with fearlessness over the middle, make him one of the highest ceiling prospects in the class. Can run away from anybody, and his speed terrified opposing defenses. Teams very often either had corners playing with a massive cushion or a safety over the top. When they wouldn't, he could make them pay downfield. Against press, he could put corners out of phase and into panic mode in a hurry. His quick climb up the stem often made underneath help impossible outside and would stress any defenses that didn't widen their alignment. His run after the catch by both speed and strong style punished defenses who allowed isolated matchups on corners. Was the best blocker wide receiver in the class, and it wasn't close. Routinely put guys on the ground, would block corners, safeties, linebackers, and defensive ends. Versatile enough to be put anywhere on the field, has as high a floor, or has a high floor as his yak and blocking ability immediately make him a viable receiver. His ceiling will be determined by how quickly he develops as a route runner. Raw isn't necessarily the right term, but underdeveloped. Ole Miss's heavy RPO read option offense created a very condensed route tree that featured very little timing-based concepts. Being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there will be a big change from his offense in Oxford. He'll need to learn a wide route tree, diversify his release package, and to sink his hips and accelerate out of breaks to realize his full potential. Sky is the limit for this kid. He's not as polished as guys like Omar Cooper or Denzel Boston, but has a higher ceiling. And that is the thing that stuck out to me. It's, are you drafting the best player right now? Or are you drafting who you think will be the best player in 2 years with good development? And if you say,
what it is.
If you say with A+ development, if the 49ers believe in their organization, they're going to believe they have A+ development.
Well, of course they are.
Right. And I think most teams will. Some will be like, well, we just want the best players now. Like you look at who's the best now, who is the best ability now, has the shorter takeoff runway. Some teams draft on that way. A lot of scouts will evaluate based off that, and a lot of the consensus board is based off that. But if you look at him compared to Omar Cooper, where they are now, Omar Cooper is ahead of him, and that was shown by being picked 30th overall by the Jets,
which we could have taken him there.
Okay, but if I say if both of these guys get A+ development in 2 years, Stribling will be the better receiver. In 2 years, A+ development, Stribling will be the better receiver over Denzel Boston. Like that is where I say I can understand why it's not a reach there, because if you're taking that approach, and the 49ers very much do. Remember, the Michael Williams pick was not based upon who they thought was going to be the best defensive edge player in 2025. They were looking at what can he be for us in our system with our development. That's what they were looking at. They mentioned that 800 times. Same thing with Alfred Collins. This is their approach. Like Nick Martin was a development, like is somebody they bring in because they feel like he can be one of the best players in 2 years. Like this is their approach. Marquise Siegel, same thing. Like incredible traits, needed time to grow in an NFL system. Like that's part of it. And I get it. We all look at the draft and we say, but your window's opening. Like we need to get over the hump with the Seahawks. We didn't do that necessarily in free agency. We need to get something that's going to get us past the Seahawks in 2026, because you have CMC's aging, Trent Williams is aging, George Kittle is aging, Fred Warner is aging. And so we need to maximize these guys' window. And I understand that. But I look at a pick like Stribling and I say, that's only going to be considered a reach based upon how do you view what is your draft, what goes into your draft strategy of how you grade players, because there will be different grades inside the organization based on that. And so, like that's what I mean. And Kalen Black is the same sort of thing. Like you look at who could he be, and he could be the third best running back out of this class. I truly do believe that. Like
he was the third one picked.
Right. But
I agree.
He how do I say this? Like this was not a deep running back class. And so if you're the 49ers and you're saying there's certain traits we want to see, and I got some clips of it, that we think this guy can be the heir apparent to Christian McCaffrey, then he has some of those traits. So, yeah. But
So
I mean, in all of this, I just like say, did they reach on him? Maybe. At the same point, I because we can't go back and run a draft where they don't draft him, we don't know that he's going to be there in the 4th round. We don't know that. Somebody else may have reached for him. I don't know. Like, because you saw, like, the Seahawks came into this draft and they had a punch card too. Like, their first pick was going to be a running back. Like, it just was. Like, at 32, they were picking a running back because they need a running back in a serious way. So, like, that's where you look at this, 49ers, let's say we need a punch card. They wanted a receiver, a dynamic playmaking receiver. They had to get that. They needed a specialist edge rusher. They wanted a pass rushing defensive tackle. They wanted a running back who they felt had a huge ceiling in the passing game. You saw that same thing last year with Jordan James. Since Christian McCaffrey has been drafted, their type of running back has changed. Like, you must have receiving skills as a running back for them, or they are not like the days of Matt Breida are over. Like, they are not looking at that kind of a runner anymore. The Jordan Mason, the Ty Davis Price, like, these are not their types of running backs anymore. Since Christian McCaffrey and seeing what he does in their offense, they've said, you've got to be a receiver as a running back. Like, that is the traits that we're looking at most for you as a running back. But they wanted that. They wanted to get a developmental center guard. Willis is the tackle that they got from Washington, projects more as a center, actually, from what I've seen, and possibly guard. So, he's going to be one of those conversion guys. And then the one thing that the 2 guys that really made me scratch my head, though, were Jaden Duggar and Cruz, Enrique Cruz. Those really had me scratching my head, especially the Jaden Duggar pick, because you traded away D Winters, and we had talked about why, right? That you have a full linebacker room, and you have a developmental guy in Nick Martin there. Tatum Bethune is a developmental guy, and suddenly now you're bringing another guy into the mix that is a big time developmental pick who's only played 1 year of off-ball linebacker at a small school, Louisiana. Like, it was really hard for me to find tape on him. I found 3 games, and that was literally like scouring I have 3 different sources that I get coaches film from the NCAA from, and it was really hard to find Louisiana film. So, yeah. And Mike B, I'll talk about this because John Lynch addressed this in the presser. I know not everybody's able to catch the presser. And he talked about it was the receiving one-on-one drills at the Senior Bowl that made them fall in love with him. And I have those clips, and we'll look at them.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to see. Because we talked about this, Johnny. We're not gonna do a deep dive and have a 4-hour show on every single guy. We want to touch on each one, and then we have plenty of time. It's still April. We have plenty of time to go over some guys a little bit more in depth, but you do want to get a little bit of depth. So
we'll give you a taste. Well, it's like Michael Scott when he breaks up with his girlfriend, and he's listening to the song on iTunes, and Jim's like, why don't you just buy the whole song? He's like, I don't want the whole song. I just want to taste it. We're just gonna get a taste of the film. I'm gonna dive into Stribling first because he's the first round guy, and so we'll get into him first. Because this is a kid, I will say, again, he wasn't on my radar as much because he wasn't in that kind of first round thing. He wasn't a top 30 visit. The reason I picked the guys that I did that I looked at were because they were top 30 visits and they were considered potential first round picks. And so, like, the 2, I'm like, well, okay, it might be one of these guys. Outside of that, the 49ers, like this guy, they tend to kind of draft out of make you go, wait, what? I didn't have that guy there. I'm not going to get into his abilities necessarily as a receiver right now, because I got so many clips of those. I just haven't compiled them and written notes. But one thing I really liked about Denzel Boston, and this is where I said it started to push him up the board for me. I felt like Denzel Boston was a late second round pick, just looking at his tape. And then as from a receiver, just because of the ceiling, as his long speed, and then his blocking ability. I was like, okay, I could see this guy's like an early second. Like, he's a really good run blocker. I will say, watching the first like 2 games, I watched his dribbling, and John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan was like, yeah, I mean, like you don't look at their blocking ability, but when the guys in our scattering department say he's the best blocker in this class, you're kind of like, okay, and then you see it and you're, oh yeah, okay, he is. That's definitely a huge plus. The first couple games I was watching, I was like, what are these guys talking about? Like, I didn't see all these great blocks. And then I got into games like 11 or through the next 11 games, and it was like watching the Keelan Rutledge version of wide receivers. This dude was putting people on the ground, and I was loving it. So here he is. You can identify him by this white sock on his right leg. That's how I found him in his film, in all the clips. But this is a dog mentality. When you put this guy from LSU on the ground and then point.
That's what I texted you. I was like, oh, it's
yeah. And then he has to stop celebrating because he sees they're trying to run out here. He's like, oh, I got to keep blocking. It doesn't happen. Here he is. He's going to go in motion. Now, when I say he's versatile, they put him everywhere. They put him out here like 2 feet from the boundary. They would put him in the backfield. We'll see that. They'd put him in the slot. They'd put him out here, motion him. They'd put him bunched up over here. They put him everywhere, but you're going to see him come around here and he's going to get up on the corner. And this is against Georgia. Like, so that first clip is LSU. These are not small schools. Okay. Now here he is against Georgia. And he's going to put the guy on the ground. He's going to give him another little shove. Say, stay on the ground. All right. Here he's going to get up on the corner again. They're running a little screen pass out here. He's going to put this guy to the sideline and on the ground. I love it. I mean, this is, and just look at how jacked up he is over this block. Okay. So he's right here. Follow him right there. I know it's hard along the sideline to see it, but look at how jacked up he is over that block of putting this guy to the sideline and on the ground. You'll see it really well from the end zone that he's going to get this guy on the ground out here. There he is. Oh, I love it. Okay. Here down at the bottom, he's converting here from running a route to, oh, they're running it. And then he puts the guy to the sideline and springs his player for a touchdown. Okay. When we talked about the 49ers last year and Christian McCaffrey only averaging 3.7 yards per carry, remember one thing I talked about all season long was that our wide receiver run blocking was absolutely terrible. It was terrible. Okay. Watch him here at the top on the corner. Oh. Puts the dude in the dirt. Here he is on the move. He's going to come out here and block again. I think this is another screen pass. Yeah, they ran a ton of screens out here. Okay, puts the guy on the sideline. He wants to get guys out of the picture. He's right here. He's going to come up and block one of these guys and watch how far he drives him to the sideline. Again, he's right here. He's going to get up in here. There he is, driving his guy all the way to the sideline from inside the hash marks. Oh, okay, here he is. He's going to block on the corner again. Just look at him drive the guy 7 yards into the end zone. All right, here he is going to crack on a linebacker. Look at him get in here. Take the guy on, put the dude in the dirt ground, and get on top of him. Okay, this is not the same clip as earlier against LSU. Looks exactly the same. It looks like the same one. Okay, here he is. Now they're going to bring him around as a U-back. This is like a tight end position. This is like Kyle Juszczyk. Watch the finish on this play. He gets this guy in here, and then the drive, and puts the dude on the ground.
Still going.
Who does that remind you of? That reminds you of George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here he is. He's going to block 13. Look at this. This is a wide receiver. Now he is coming in off the sideline. Here he is.
No,
Just puts the dude
that was
in
almost
the
in the back.
dirt.
That was almost in the back.
It was almost, but it wasn't, because the
Yeah.
defender inside that box, if they turn their back to you, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you got remember what was the key thing we talked about 49ers receivers since 2019?
Yeah.
These guys block, and they block their rear ends off. What was one of the traits that we talked about Brandon Ayuk for so much is that he would block downfield. He was into it. Juwan Jennings was a dog out there, could block guys like a tight end. And George Kittle, he's not just a receiving tight end. Dude would put people in the dirt and block. We didn't have that last year. We didn't.
Yeah.
And our run game was as
really
bad
bad
as it had been all during Kyle Shanahan's entire tenure.
Yep.
And so when you see this kid and you say, okay, now, and this is not including the dynamic home run playmaking abilities this kid has. I mean, we are talking about a massive home run hitter. When you pair it with that, I go, you know what? I'm not upset with this pick at 33. I really like this kid. Like, this kid's got a lot to him now. He's got a lot to learn from as a route runner. And so but he's going to have a runway. When you say, well, okay, yeah, but the 49ers, we've had these guys before that can't beat man coverage, and they're not a great route runner. I said, well, that's why you brought in a Mike Evans. That's why you have a Christian McCaffrey. That's why you have a George Kittle.
Yeah.
That is why you have a Ricky Pearsall. So now, like, this kid does not need to be
Christian Kirk.
You have a Christian Kirk. I don't think he's going to be as much your man beater, but you have those four guys. Okay, we're good there. Like, a team wants to play press man and go, well, they can play in press man, and he can put that corner in trouble in a hurry. But you want to have somebody beat man coverage in the short and intermediate, you got guys who can do that. And you got a pretty healthy amount of guys, namely one Mike Evans.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's not going to be here forever, but now you bring in Stribling to learn underneath a Mike Evans and develop and have a runway to learn that for the next year to maybe 2 years. And so when I say he has the highest ceiling, you look at that blocking ability with 4.36 speed, that he will straight run away from some of the fastest corners in the league in NCAA, guys that were drafted. This kid has a massive ceiling.
Yeah. No, I love it.
And I will completely agree with Kali. Ole Miss's passing concepts are so elementary. Like, I was telling people, like, people who say, well, he only ran 3 routes in college. And I say, it wasn't because he couldn't run more than that. It was literally, that was like 80% of Ole Miss's passing game. Like, there were so many RPOs where it's literally like, their kind of coaching is you run 4 steps and then turn and present yourself to the quarterback, because it's a runner pass option. And so there's like 80 curls a game. It drove me nuts. Like, and then turn around, 4 steps and then turn around. There was a lot of some slants, and which are, again, RPOs. It's the quarterback's going to either hand it off or hit the slant. Go balls. It was like, if they didn't have a safety over the top, it's a go ball, and kid can make the back shoulder. He can make the straight go ball. He can do the contested catch. He has those. Like, the majority of his routes were go balls, hitches, slants. Like, that was 90% of the routes he run at Ole Miss. And it felt like they had like 12 passing plays. That was it. They ran very, very few passing concepts. And even like when he ran the deep ends, it was kind of like off play action, and it's like play action, and then the quarterback's going to look and see, is that window open? Is that guy right there? Is he staying there? It was almost like a hitch that broke in for 3 yards. There wasn't a lot of hitting these on the move. So yeah, I mean, and it's not just Ole Miss. There's a lot of college teams are doing this, because, I mean, Chambliss was a very athletic quarterback. I mean, dude would just take off and run for 40 yards. So, like, I understand why they did that, and it nearly got them to the national championship game. And that was also something that stands out, because, when they played Miami, it was 31-27 at the end of the game, and Stribling made a massive catch to get them down to like the 45-yard line in the biggest moment of the game. And then who was the guy they were going to in the Hail Mary? It was Stribling. And it was a very, very controversial non-call there. I saw it on the tape. Like, it was absolutely pass interference. So like that's who they were going for for an opportunity to go to the national championship game against Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk through 10 sacks and 58 hurries for Romello Height. Had some surgeries early in his career, but has not had many issues lately on that shoulder. What do you think of this pick?
So the thing that really made me more interested in this pick, because I was seeing some buzz. I like the kid out of the Senior Bowl. Again, I felt like he was going to fall into this odd range that I didn't think we were going to pick, but I was wrong. It does happen, people. I am wrong. But because I thought they were going to go guard at 58, I really did. But they just
Yeah.
don't value offensive line as much as I want them to. I mean, you guys know I went through the guard prospects. I went through the center prospects. I love some of these guys and wanted them. I wanted Keelan Rutledge so bad. Apparently, so did the Texans. But which again, every team's going to reach in some way. Because Keelan Rutledge we were mocking him to the 49ers at 58. Almost everybody was. And the Texans traded up to 26 to get him. Just saying. But
Yeah.
but so I wasn't doing a lot of individual homework on him. What I did see was when I was doing the work on tackles, like Max Iannachor, Caden Proctor, Caleb Lamu, and Spencer Fano.
Sure.
I was watching the Texas Tech games, right? Because they had David Bailey and they had Romello Height. And so watching him against some of the top tackle prospects, that's when I started to go, man, I really wouldn't mind this kid Romello Height. He's got a great first step. He's got good bend at the top. He plays with his hands well. He's got good hand skills. Like, man, I really like this kid. He really challenged Caleb Lamu. He was actually one of the reasons why I was starting to get a little out on Caleb Lamu, is everybody was like, Caleb Lamu to the 49ers at 27. I was like, not for me. Not for me. I watched his game against Texas Tech. That Utah Texas Tech game was really good, fun to watch. Those tackles and those edge players go against each other. And I was like, this Romello Height kid, man, I mentioned him on after the first day of the draft when we did a show the next morning, and I said, you're sitting here in the second round, you could go a number of ways, and like they could go with a Cassius Salary. That Romello Height's there, I like him, and so like Romello Height, this is somebody who, again, for what we said the 49ers needed. They needed a dynamic wide receiver. They needed a specialist pass rusher with their retirement of Bryce Huff, and they've got that. Like, those are two massive like contributor holes that these are big needle movers. Like, the thing about Stribling is he's one of those players you can run a tunnel screen with him like you used to with Debo, and you can get an 80-yard touchdown. You can run a slant with him over the middle when they're doubling Mike Evans, and you can get a touchdown for a 75-yard touchdown. Like, he's somebody that they've got to have. Safeties have got to be in the right angles, in the right spots, or this dude will make them pay in a big time way, in an instant. And so this opens up everything. It's a needle mover. With Romello Height, that's a speed rusher that opens up things for Nick Bosa, that opens up things for Michael rushing from the inside, Keon White rushing from the inside, Oso Odigizua rushing from the inside, Grayson Halton rushing from the inside. This is something that opens. So it is a big needle mover. That's what I really like about Romello Height.
So, yeah, excited to see where he fits in, and we have plenty of time to go over more stuff with him as we get into like training camp and stuff like that. I want to ask you about the next pick we got into a little bit. With misses on Joe Williams, TDP, Trey Sermon, maybe Garendo, we're starting to say that. Here we go again with a big swing, you might say, as this guy might have been available later, and second year guy Jordan James, if he's gonna likely be RB2. What do you want to say about, is this RB3, and did we need to pick him at number 90?
I think there's going to be an open competition there at RB2 between
And that's fair.
Kalen Black and and Jordan James. Isaac Guerrero is somebody that had a huge ceiling, but just seems to have not
Just didn't pan out.
developed
Yeah.
and has not panned out the way that, and it really had to do with, like, this was a guy who was a receiver first, a running back, and a wide zone second. And they've kind of, if you look at Jordan James and Kalen Black, these are guys that are kind of 50-50. Now, I know people are going to flame me and say, well, Kalen Black was not a receiving back at Indiana. They didn't hardly use him. I will say again, go to the press conference, John Lynch talking about how this was a kid that they fell in love with at the Senior Bowl. Now, I will say, this is why I thank you so much to every member of JFA49.com who has allowed me to go to the Senior Bowl. Your support has allowed, has been able to, why I can afford to go to the Senior Bowl, and have that investment there, because the 49ers love Senior Bowl guys. When you look at this draft, Romello Height was a Senior Bowl guy. Kalen Black was a Senior Bowl guy. Grayson Halton was a Senior Bowl guy. Willis Carver was a Senior Bowl guy. Like, these are all Senior Bowl guys. They love their Senior Bowl guys. They met with Kalen Black at the Senior Bowl. They really liked him. They said that Kyle Shanahan was watching these drills, and John Lynch said, called him and said, you need to go watch this kid in the 1v1s in the pass game drills. And he said Kyle was watching him from back in the office and absolutely loved this kid, what he can bring. Who does this remind you of? Let's see him out here. It's this little burst in and out.
That's CMC, dog.
From the pass game. I mean, so we went over Bryce Betcher here, right? And I did that with staff or with stats. Bryce Betcher, the linebacker. And one thing I was talking about was how Betcher, and I put him we showed him in the 1v1s against the running backs, and he was covering guys pretty well, right? Not every running back this wasn't just like every running back was cooking every linebacker. No, like, it was this stuff that I remember talking about it, like the nights of the Senior Bowl. I was like, this Kalen Black kid is super twitchy in the pass game. I mean, this dude just got open with impunity. This just twitchy, super twitchy kid, with tree trunks for legs, who can get out here. And it's like, okay, now you try and jam him and he's going to cross your face and come along inside. This is real high level burst from a running back in the pass game. He just wasn't used all that much in the pass pro. Okay, get in there and work it. You just need to hold up for long enough. You don't need to necessarily dirt a guy. This was Xavier Sori was like trying to take out his frustrations, because they knew it was going to be a pass rush drill, and it was like, all right, and we're going to get you in there. But here he is against different linebackers. Man, it's like there was not a linebacker out here who could cover this kid. Not one. Just super twitchy, ability to the quick feet. I mean, the thing that stands out is this kid's got insanely quick feet. It's the feet that separate him on there. I mean, he straight just puts a foot in the dirt and gets this guy off balance and just accelerates away. You can see the guy's just going to sit there. He's like, I'm going to wait. And then there's no chance. This is the bag. So the reason I brought this clip up, because I wanted to show this was something that stood out. Okay, why? Well, because right here, that's Garrett Williams, Houston Stressons, who we've had on the show before. This is Steph Sanchez, who we've also had on the show before. This in the red, that's one Wayne Breezy right there. All right, and this right here, leaning forward in the black, that is one Johnny Dell. So we were sitting right there watching these guys and watching this. Okay, here's the running back from Oklahoma. Watch his feet around this barrel. Okay, not bad. Little jump cut. Okay, now let's watch Kalen Black. Watch the feet.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. I mean, look at this kid's feet, the high knees, the ability to go through the jump cuts. This kid's got some special feet. This is him going through the bags. Those feet are so fast, because then you look at these guys and it looks like they're almost running in molasses. When you look at the jolt of their feet. Like it's just not as much there. Like this was what, again, we were sitting right up here and we were watching these guys, and it was a clear difference between Kalen Black, who's here. This is him. And the other guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And here he is again in the pass rush or pass reps. I mean, just beat everybody. I mean, this is Xavier Story's like fourth time trying to guard him, and he still can't guard him.
That one wasn't as bad, that coverage.
It wasn't as bad because it was the third day and he'd gotten cooked by him every day. So he was like, all right, I'm not going to get cooked by this guy. I'm not going to get cooked by this guy. And he still gets cooked by him. Not as bad, but still.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, not as bad.
You know, and I'm going to dive into his tape there at Indiana. I've already watched, like 3 games. I'm getting through all of them. I got so many games to go through now.
Yeah.
All these different picks. We're working there.
Totally.
But like I said, there's a lot to really like there. When you see it, you can say, okay, I can see the vision here. I can see the vision. Like this isn't just and also this is a kid that runs hard. Like he runs hard. When I was doing the draft prep, I was watching Indiana's games against Oregon. And the thing that stood out was when 8 got on the field, man, there were going to be yards after yards after contact. Like this dude ran hard. So and that's what we saw with Jordan James. Like these start looking at traits of CMC. What does CMC do? He runs really hard. Okay. He's got quick feet. He's got really quick feet. And the quick feet allows him to be very dynamic in the pass game. And when you look at Jordan James, very similar profile. When you look at Kalen Black, very similar profile. Hard runners with quick feet who can be weapons in the passing game. Like these start becoming the CMC profile is what they're looking at.
Yeah, you love to see it. Another thing that I love to see is when you can lead the entire college football in 2025 in run stop rate at 9.9%. That is a one Grayson Halton, our next pick at 107 from Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. And you know, the Oklahoma musical. Anyways,
Zoiks.
So, Grayson Halton is somebody that when you say like this dude is a pass rusher first, yes, it begins and ends with his pass rushing. This is a pass rushing defensive tackle, 8.5 sacks, bunch of pressures. They came in and they have insulated that interior pass rushing position, right? This means now you're looking at and not like this is very much a different approach. Okay, we're gonna have the NASCAR package kind of thing. So it was last year. It was Yetur Gross-Matos, Micah Williams, defensive ends that move inside, rush the passer on passing downs. But then last year happened, and what they had 4 defensive tackles that weren't part of their pass rush plan: Kalia Davis, Jordan Elliott, CJ West, Alfred Collins. Suddenly, they got an injury to Yetur Gross-Matos and Micah Williams, and they had no interior pass rush, right? Zero. Absolutely zero interior pass rush. They traded for Keon White. He was actually starting to get pressures, but he was being wanted to be used as an interior rusher, but he didn't know the stunts. He didn't know the twists. He didn't know the footwork. Like he didn't know all that stuff because they invested everything into this NASCAR package. And then it fell apart when those 2 guys got hurt. And so now what do? Okay, now you have Micah Williams who can rush from the inside. I understand he's coming back from the ACL. You got Osa Odigizua. He can rush from the inside. You still have Keon White, and you're going to have him for a full offseason. And now you get Grayson Halton. So now you have 2 defensive tackles who are interior pass rushers, and you have a third guy who's more of a smaller defensive tackle body who can rush from the inside in Keon White, and you have Micah Williams. So now you have 4 interior pass rushers, including 2 defensive tackles. This was about fixing that problem that they said, we cannot go into the season with only 2 interior pass rushers. We need to be able to have guys who can rush the passer, be in there on third downs, and we need a waves of these guys, because every team will tell you interior pass rush can be almost more problematic for quarterbacks than edge guys, because it gives a quarterback nowhere to step up to, and it allows your edge guys to feast. So this is an interior pass rusher, and a guy again from the Senior Bowl that really liked. Here he is. We're going to look at some of his pass rush ops here. The quickness is what stands out. The kids, again, this is another quick feet, like movement guy. Here he is going against guard. You can see the feet. Now, one thing about this guy, he stands up high. He's got high pad level. So this is why I say he's an interior pass rusher. He's going to have some work to do to get on the field as a run stopper. But this is him against Jake Slaughter, kid I loved, really liked, right? I was really high on Jake Slaughter, and so was Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
he
Harbaugh.
Picked him.
You know that's Harbaugh guy.
Right? And look at him take Jake Slaughter. Like,
yeah.
This was one of the few times Jake Slaughter lost, like out there. And this was on day one. Okay, yeah. You can see the violent hands, the quickness to get up the field. I mean, he knew he won this rep too. You can see him jacked up, ready to go. He won this rep, and he's vertical. You can see him. Oh yeah, I won that one. There it is.
This is a good pick, Johnny. This is a good pick at 107. Honestly,
and this was a good value pick. I think this met up with the boards that were there, but you can see the vision, quick feet. Here he is against Slaughter again. I mean, he gave Slaughter everything he could handle. Here he is against another guard. I mean, just strength and bowl. Like this is a bowl in a china closet kind of guy. Like this dude can make some noise. This is not him. I don't know why he's on this pick. Or this clip. So, not sure why there he is. Yeah. 50, because he's 56. Somehow another clip sneaked in there. But I mean, just like good power, bull rush, spin step moves. I mean, look at this other guy at the end of this clip. Like, he's going to be telling him how much, like, dude lost. Here he comes into the frame at the end. There he is. Yeah. He's like, oh, see?
Oh, man.
You can't handle him.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah. I mean, the quickness. This is a fast, quick feet, pass rushing defensive tackle. Like this pick a lot. When you see the vision, you go, okay, yeah, we needed to insulate that interior pass rush for injury, and we need a guy who can be there. Again, I don't know how this guy slipped in here. This is him. Okay. I thought it was 96 for a second. I was like, did I get 96 in there again? Because that was a challenge. Now, he didn't win every rep. Okay. But you can see the vision. You can see what is there. Another Senior Bowl guy that they really liked. So, yeah.
So, a short answer on our number 127 pick. Is he going to start? Carver Willis, offensive line from Washington. Possibly could even be moved to center. Will he start? Is he our guard?
I don't know. I will say as much. He has as much of an opportunity to be that left guard as Dominic Puni had coming in. He was a 4th round pick, was a tackle, going to be converted to guard.
We assumed Puni wouldn't. If you remember back, honestly, I feel like the general consensus was not that he was going to start right away off the bat. Come on. Puni, he surprised us. He surprised everyone.
He surprised you.
In a good way.
Yeah, but look, I will say,
did not have him exactly starting the minute we drafted him. Come on.
Look, bro, I had been mocking him to the 49ers in every mock draft I did. Like, I love Dominic Puni. So I was pretty confident he was going to be one of our right guard. Like, I really did. So, like, he didn't surprise me all that much with Carver. I haven't gotten into much of the tape. I've got to see a little bit more.
Okay. That's another
because he wasn't on my radar as somebody who would be an interior guy, because I don't remember him getting guard snaps.
No, he was a tackle in college.
Right. But like,
he had
Dominic Puni was a tackle.
Right.
And then at the Senior Bowl, he went in there and he was getting snaps at guard. And so I don't like, I don't remember Willis getting those same snaps, but I'll go back and double check on that because I got all the film. It's just a lot to work through. Um, but
There's a lot to like about him. We'll see.
there is. I mean, there's a lot of like jury's still out on him for me.
Yeah,
I haven't done enough homework yet. I mean, we're 2 days
yeah.
after the draft,
We're just a
and so
light depth here,
yeah, yeah.
which takes us to number 139. But before, of course, a super chat. Thank you, Gizmo. Will these never play like? Yeah, I mean that's the question. Jordan James, Cowing, how many yards will Black have? Receptions, sacks for Romello. Are some of these developmental guys? I get it. It's a wait and see, isn't it, Johnny?
Um, I mean, yeah,
It's too early.
there's definitely going to be a part of that. And what we know from the 49ers, if you prove it in training camp, you will play.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to George Kittle. Like, kid was not drafted to be the starting tight end. Remember, didn't we have McDonald at that time? Because he had been signed to the extension by Balky. And then we ended up trading him to the Steelers, if I remember right.
That sounds right. Chat will help us, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm if I'm remembering how that kind of curve went. I go back to like let's look at some of the guys that they've had in the past. If we say we're wide receiver like Jacob Cowing, didn't get no snaps last year because he wasn't able, like he didn't have the ability. He was on IR all year. If we look at his rookie year, he had a high developmental ceiling, like or runway. Like he was not he didn't have like he wasn't 6'2", 207 pounds. He wasn't like, okay, we can put him out there and he's a great run blocker. And so we have no worry about, him causing us problems in the run game where that's a big deal for us. He wasn't somebody that you're like, okay, we don't need him to put on any weight so he can run a slant over the middle in case he gets lit up by a linebacker. Like he didn't have to, he was also on a team with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And Juwan Jennings was a big contested catch guy. So like, he got some snaps, but Jacob Cowing wasn't an early round considered early impact player. Stribling is. Okay, we look at the receivers that the 49ers have picked early. You have Deebo Samuel, who got over 800 yards in over 11 starts his rookie year. Brandon Ayuk, over 750 receiving yards his rookie year. A lot of targets. Was well used. Ricky Pearsall played in 11 games in the year he got shot.
It would have been more.
And right. He played in 11 games. Had 18 targets his last 2 games of his rookie year. Like he was played. So those are 3 early round wide receivers. They play. If we look at defensive ends like Romello, sacks for Romello, Drake Jackson appeared in 15 games his rookie year. Drake Jackson was the second round pick. They play. Nick Bosa obviously was number 3 overall, so that's not a great comparison there. And same with Solomon Thomas, but I mean those guys were immediate starters.
If they play and they fit the system, they will play. Like
right, again, I go back to Drake Jackson. Like that guy was picked in the second round as a pass rush specialist, and that's what they used him as. They actually didn't give him as many snaps because they said his body was wearing down. Like it wasn't because of lack of ability or belief in him. They literally like he was kind of wearing out. Like he was losing juice as the season went on. And they said, we need him to get stronger. We need him to get a little better. And then he got hurt the next year. Right. Like if you remember, he started out the season his second year strong with the 3 sacks against Pittsburgh, but then was dealing with injuries. So, so when I look at it, I say, well, are these guys going to play? Absolutely they are. And they've talked about like, now again, I'll believe it when I see it, when CMC starts getting less of a workload, because they said that they were going to do that, but he's 30 years old. They've got to give him less workload. Like, it's just a
Just at
fact.
some point, yeah.
I mean, like, they have got to, like, it's going to be no longer, we might need to think about doing this. It has to
It's not
happen. And they
cute.
did
It's
start
not
to do
cute
that a
anymore.
little bit. They did start to do that a little bit with Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson got more snaps than any other, like, running back number 2 behind Christian McCaffrey had at that point. So, like,
Yeah.
I do think that these guys are all going to play and they're all going to get snaps. How much they do will be based upon metric or merit. They will have to earn their way there. But if they do, the 49ers have shown a willingness to let young guys play. I mean, again, just go back to Dre Greenlaw. He took over the starting role from Quan Alexander as time went, because of, like, when Quan was healthy in this playoffs in the Super Bowl, like, he didn't come in and supplant Dre Greenlaw. Like, they kept Dre out there as linebacker number 2, even though Quan was on a big time contract at the time, big time contract. And so, like, they'll play him. They'll play young guys who show they can play.
If
So,
they show they can play, so it'll be fun to
yeah.
see. Speaking of fun to see, I'm not sure if we will see the last 3 picks. They are for depth. I mean, I like 6'3" Ephesians is a big corner. Jaden Duggar, linebacker, because we traded away D Winters, and Cruz, the tackle from Kansas, gives us more depth and another guy that we can bring in. But all 3 of those guys may not make the team, and we wouldn't be shocked. What are your thoughts on those 3?
Was that in the comments somewhere? It sounded like you were reading something, or were you just going off of it?
Oh, I was just, hey, I'm a
Oh, okay.
professional, Johnny.
Oh, okay. So, well, you sounded very polished on that. Look, Ephesians Priceock is an interesting pick for me, because we had talked about VJ Payne, and when you look at the size profile of Priceock and VJ Payne, nearly identical. Like, these are both big, tall, lanky guys. Priceock, to me, screams like this is going to be somebody that I think will end up being your big nickel. Like, that what we had talked about with VJ Payne and the vision,
I
to
like his
me, I
size
think Ephesians
for
is going to be
sure.
that guy, because like, when you're 6'3" as a corner, I don't think they're not going to put him on the outside. I think, like, Renardo's an outside guy.
Yeah.
Demo, he can do both, but I think they really want him to be on the outside. They like Upton Stout. He's more that kind of player. They need somebody who can come in and battle those tight ends, and still who can cover those tight ends and still make plays against the run. Remember that Jason Pinnock was a converted corner to safety that was similar size to Ephesians. So this, to me, says you're going to get that he's going to be a 4th safety-ish hybrid player. I think that's what the vision is for him. They haven't said that. They haven't gotten into that part of the scheme, but I really think that's what's going on here. Because, again, why did I go through VJ Payne? Because I was like, when you look at how the league is going and how the Rams and the Seahawks have gone with their multiple tight end sets, we need and the problem that Jason Pinnock was there of not being able to stand up against a run. I was like, we need a big bodied guy who can come in there and play that role against 12 and 13 personnel. And so Priceock, like, he fits that kind of profile. He's more of a big safety body. And so that's what's fascinating about this man. I haven't seen anybody else picking up on that, but maybe it's just because I was high on VJ Payne as for a
We were
specific
texting that.
role, as a very specific role. But I was like, I see this as that role. I didn't see it coming from there. Like, I didn't see him harvesting that from there, because I don't think there was a lot of safeties in this draft that really fit that role. VJ Payne was like the only guy that I was like, okay, this is your, like, 12 personnel kind of safety guy. Priceock, though, it probably brings you more upside as a coverage guy. So very interesting pick there. And then, like, Duggar is a kid that, I mean, the measurables
brand
are
new.
phenomenal. Like,
He's brand new at linebacker. He
yeah,
needs a lot of
the
help.
measurables are insane.
Yeah.
Now, what is his runway going to be? That's the question. Because I just go, how do you then construct this roster where you have your depth behind Dre Greenlaw because you can't trust that Dre's going to stay healthy, and you're also not putting guys, exposing them on the practice squad that they're going to get poached. I just don't know how you construct that linebacker room to make that possible. Maybe Garrett Wallow, just because he had been a practice squad guy with the Broncos, and like nobody poached him for a long time. And then they released him, and then we ended up picking him up. So I don't know.
It's a wait and see on him. Yeah. And then again with that tackle from Kansas, I mean, he big boy. But it's a wait and see. There's we don't know much about him, but when you're picked that far down, a lot of those guys simply don't make the team, and it's a story if they do.
I think he's another guy that projects as an interior player. I don't like the little bit I watched on him. This does not look like an NFL tackle at all. So
Yeah.
I'd be real surprised if they and look, Austin Pleasance is their developmental tackle. Like that's the guy who they've had as the developmental guy. They went out and got Vidarian Lowe. Those are your tackles, like the tackle guys. This screams like probably going to end up being a practice squad player.
Yeah.
They just wanted the
Depth and
first rights to him, kind of a thing.
yeah. Yeah. You never know how it's gonna pan out. All right. So what I want to make sure I set up here, Johnny, is the next show that we're able to do. I want to figure out film and that kind of thing. What's on your docket here coming up?
So that's a great question. I'm definitely gonna be diving into Stribling this week. Might go tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, in the afternoon. I'm not sure. I'm in the middle of softball season with my kiddos too. So it is a journey to say the least. We're gonna get into Stribling this week. We're gonna get into Romello Height soon. We're gonna get into Kalen Black a little bit more. The other guys will be as I get through the film. But I've got a good start on those three guys already. And have been pulling their clips, and as you can see, I've got some of these ready to go. I try
So
and
stay tuned, basically.
Yeah.
And look, there was someone that commented. It was about 45 minutes ago. I don't remember. And they commented, I made it to the show
That was
without a
Mike V.
notification.
It was Mike
Okay,
V.
yes, and I'm like, that is risky business. Like, make sure that you hit
All
the
right, Tom
notification
Cruise.
bell. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Yes, it does help the channel out, but it helps you out because there's 200 people live watching now, and you don't want to miss out. And so sometimes we aren't able to go at the same times.
We try
So
though. We try.
we absolutely do try. Cayman's Islands checking in. What is up, brother? If this class bombs and the Niners do not make the playoffs, do you see Lynch losing his job? This fan base don't play. Well, the fans can fire him.
Okay. I guess coming back to this, when you have these questions about reaches and draft approach, one of the problems we have is that we look. So there's two issues that I have, and this is where I feel like I'm in the middle. Is you have Tariq Ahmed is asked about this and about you don't follow the consensus boards, and they say, well, there's consensus in this building. I don't know how many times John Lynch in his press conference said the word conviction. We felt a lot of conviction about everybody in the building had conviction on this player, and so they're asked about that and how they don't line up to the consensus boards. And Tariq Ahmed says, well, that's fine. Other people may have their metrics that they use, but that's ignoring the in the building metrics we have that have got players like your George Kittles and your Dre Greenlaws. Okay. That doesn't satisfy me. When your justification for the last 4 years of not getting a George Kittle or Dre Greenlaw is we got these guys 7 and 9 years ago in our first 3 drafts, we got these guys by taking this approach. It starts to feel like you may have more lucked into these guys than a clear process that that consistently identifies players who can be big time contributors when they're not early round picks or they're not consensus early round picks. So that doesn't sell me on your plan. That doesn't sell me on it, because you have missed more often than you've hit according to that kind of a metric. And since Trey Lance, since 2022, you have not been a consistently hitting team. Like, we're not sitting here saying, man, they've got guys that it's going to be a challenge. How do you pay this guy next year? Outside of Brock Purdy. So you have questions that we say, I'm not sold by your justification of that. Now, on the other side, I say so you have that side, which is completely nothing's wrong. It's fine. It's totally fine. We're good. Nothing wrong with our process. Our process is great and amazing. On the other side, you have fans screaming, they reach, they're terrible at drafting, they don't know what they're doing, fire everybody, we need a real GM in here. Imagine what we would do with a real GM. And I say, okay, if you were looking at just the draft as in a vacuum, that's part of the issue. The draft is not done in a vacuum. It is part of your roster construction. It is a big part, but your roster construction is based around free agency, who you choose to pay and who you let go, like a Talanoa Hufanga, whether you choose to pay him or not, on who on your runway that you expect on development of players. Because we also look at this and say, okay, is Micah Williams a bust? We haven't seen enough. Is Ricky Williams a bust? He's had some injury issues. He's had some not been able to be out there on the field as much. When we've seen him and he's been healthy, man, kid looks really good. But we don't know. He's still an I don't know. Is Marquise Siegel a bust or not? I don't know yet. And it's hard to say, a guy picked where he is a bust, but like, he could be a really good really good safety. He's got a lot of really good traits there. Is Dominic Puni not we were talking about in his first 2 months playing that he was looking like a future all-pro guard. And now people are like, we need to get better. Well, there's a process to this, and then there's a length. When you pick, you're going to use the draft. If you're like, the question is, are you supplementing role players that you can get at certain spots that have a very specific defined role to allow your starters to be there, and for certain positions you invest in, so that you let a Deebo Samuel go and reset your cap, which is what they did with Ricky Pearsall, so that you can keep your Nick Bosa. Like, all of this is part of a roster construction strategy. And so when it comes down to really truly grading, how does a team do this? You have to grade roster construction overall, not just the draft, because the draft is part of the roster construction. The point of the draft isn't just to win the draft. The point of the draft is to put together the best team possible. So when you look at that, you have to say, who are the most perennially successful teams? Because that tells you who has the most perennially successful roster construction strategies. And the most perennially competing teams are going to be the Eagles. They're going to be the Seahawks are trending that way. The Rams, 49ers, Chiefs, right? These are your teams that are perennially your best roster construction teams. And so if we factor the draft into that, then I say they are not as they cannot be as bad at drafting as the kind of narrative that is out there. You can't be 12-5 last year while being a really bad drafting team. Like, I can't buy that. I can't buy that you went to the Super Bowl in 2023 being a really bad drafting team, and you were in the NFC Championship game in 2022, and you're a really bad drafting team, and you're in the NFC Championship game in 2021, and you're a really bad drafting team, and you're in the Super Bowl in 2019, and you're a really bad drafting team. Like, I can't buy that argument. So, and this year you were 12-5, you beat the defending Super Bowl champs in Philadelphia. Like,
Yeah,
I
fair
get
place.
that they got stomped by Seattle. Like, I really do. It just felt like the team kind of ran out of gas by the time they got to Philly or to Seattle.
We were
Like,
running on
so
empty for 8 weeks.
right, and so like, and you were so incredibly injured. So like, I get why there are some of the criticisms. I don't get like, I don't see John Lynch losing his job when you've put together a Super Bowl caliber roster, as many times as they have, and had roster turnover, and you were in a salary cap reset year last year, and you competed the way you do, and you have a team that, if you look at on paper, again, what have we said for the last 4 years? If this team is healthy, they're in the Super Bowl, and you can make that argument with this 49ers team as it is right now. Like, with this draft class, you can make that argument. So I can't say that, if you don't make the playoffs, that's a different question. That's hard to see, with
Yeah.
this roster of them not making the playoffs. I mean, because again, we were a 12-5 team, and you're saying, like, this draft class is, and the guys that they let go, are the fall off is now going to be the difference between a 12-5 team and what, a 7-10 team. Off what? Getting Mike Evans over Juwan Jennings, letting Kalia Davis go and Jordan Elliott go. Like, what big departures were a talent loss from this team from the year before? D Winters, for Drake Greenlaw, and I'm
Huff
not,
retiring.
Bryce Huff retiring. I'm not sold on that. Like, Bryce
Right.
Huff missed a couple games. We had no pass rush because of all the injuries on the defensive line. Like, I'm not sold that like, this is a playoff caliber roster without a doubt. Like,
Yeah.
if we aren't competing for a Super Bowl, we're going to feel like,
And look,
like,
every team, I'm friends with Lions fans, Bears fans, as I live in Indiana. Every fan base says, "Oh, their GM." So in the chat, some people were like, "Oh, imagine if we had the GM of this team or this team." Okay, go to those fans' podcasts, and they're saying the same thing. It's all relative.
well,
Now,
and every year we talk about that this team won the draft and this team won free agency. And very rarely are those the teams that, come December, you're going, man, look out for these guys. I will
yeah,
say that I think the Bears had a good draft.
and
I
so did the
like I
Cowboys.
was
The
I was
Cowboys had a good
so
draft.
I was so mad when the Bears picked Sam Roush,
I
because I was
know.
like, this dude with Ben Johnson is gonna be a problem. God, I was so mad. But
And they already have a bunch of tight ends. Cornelius Merritt talking about next year now, due to the hype for the 2027 draft. What's your take on us moving back for the 6th round next
And see,
year?
this is what's
I'm
funny
sick
is
of
like,
trades.
I can say what I say, and I'm gonna get hit from both sides. Like, this is awesome. That's when you know you're probably in the sweet spot, is when you're gonna take shots from both sides. Like, because that happens on Twitter all day long. I'm now using a backup account on Twitter, and I'm already taking fire from both sides. People telling me I'm carrying water for the team and just everything, and people telling me I'm also don't know, like, way too critical of the team, and they know what they're doing. I want to thank Cornelius Merritt for the super chat.
Yeah. So, um, I was sick of the trades by then as well. Next year's draft is going to be better than this year, supposedly, is what it's what the consensus is saying. I said consensus more
It's
times in
not
the
just
last
even
hour than I
consensus.
did in my whole life.
Yeah, that's not even just consensus. Like, that is
Fact.
the insiders have been saying that every NFL GM they talked to was saying that. And they also said that's why this draft year felt so wild, because this class was just different. It was different, and 2027 is going to be a very, very deep draft class. And so it felt like people were really targeting certain players and certain kind of traits that just weren't as common in this draft. And so it was like you had teams moving up, moving back, doing all this stuff, and really targeting specific players. And so I do like us getting a 6th for next year. Yeah, I'm all into, like, get as many like get as many as
You're
much
going to see
draft
some
capital as you
tanking.
can for next year. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you,
You're going to see
everybody's gonna
some
want the
tanking.
kid out of Ohio, the receiver out of Ohio State, Jeremiah. Like,
Oh yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
wants him. Like that dude is going to be like number 1 or number 2 overall next year, assuming he doesn't have some sort of disaster this year. Like next year's draft is going to be an interesting one. I mean, I will say this year's draft had a ton of wide receivers. I mean, they set a record for pass catchers in the first 4 rounds in between tight ends and receivers. Like there was a run on receivers and tight ends in this class. I think next year there's going to be a lot of good linebackers, defensive tackles, offensive line. I think is going to be good next year. Like there's going to be a lot of that in next year's classes. So we'll see how it goes.
We
But
have
I
some
I, I
time
do I
to
do
talk
like
about
getting
it.
an extra pick in that next year's draft.
Yeah, 100%. So again, so much time, guys. Like, make sure everyone's blood pressure is at an appropriate amount. It is only April 27th. We got a lot of time for our blood pressure to spike. We have a lot of time to watch film, to be in church, as I call it, with Johnny Dell, because I always love the chat goes just completely dark and empty when church is in session and Johnny's got the film. So the way to see the film is to make sure that you have hit the subscribe and notification bell. Make sure when you have your phone and you see Niner fans, go up to them, show them the channel. This was a great show. We had about 200 people, I think, at least live in the chat. That doesn't always happen. I expected it because of the draft, our takes and your takes and everything. So very awesome to see. But we have more film coming. Also, the website. Thank you again to those who contribute to make shows like this even happen. Um, appreciate everyone in the chat. This was super fun. So we'll try and go normal time Friday, Johnny. You think, unless something
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, and I may go
So
earlier this week. It just depends on how quickly I get through the film. I know you kind of want to strike while the iron's hot. People aren't as interested in your second round pick in July,
yeah,
and
yeah.
his college film. So,
Well, get
but
working,
it's a
Johnny.
very condensed workspace. I mean, honestly, because like think about the review videos I do. I'm doing that on one game. I'm trying to do an entire NCAA season
Yeah.
on 7 guys, and get it done in like a week or 2. An incredible amount of work. But
Yeah.
again,
Thanks
thank
for your
you to
hard
the
work.
members of JFA49.com. And if you would
Yes.
like to become a member and support that work that's happening in this off season, there's a link in the description below, and appreciate everybody who has come on board and supported that, because it has really truly allowed me to do a lot more draft prep this year than I've ever done. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. No, we love to see it. If you want more draft takes throughout the whole league and some NBA playoff talk, be sure to tune in to Sports Edit Nation. New episodes of Sports Edit Nation come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I just did an episode earlier this morning with Ti. So check that out as well. But in the meantime, in between time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.